Hey guys, welcome back to Uber Eats Hustle. This is David here with another video of Uber Eats information and tips and tricks for you to help you earn more while you are out delivering. If this is the first one of my videos you've seen, go ahead and click the subscribe button in order to get more great Uber Eats content in your feed regularly. Today I'm going to talk about something that a lot of delivery drivers do, and not just delivery drivers, actually lots of gig appers in general do this. And of course, what I'm talking about is multi-apping. Multi-apping is logging into multiple gig apps at the same time. That would mean that you're logged into Uber Eats and DoorDash, or Uber Eats and Caviar. There are some drivers who will even log into 3 or 4 apps at the same time. And while it's pretty rare that I multi-app myself, I do it from time to time. There is one other app that I do use sometimes on the rare occasions when Uber Eats is very slow, but it really hardly ever comes up, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. That said, what are some of the pros and the cons of multi-apping? Well, the main pro is pretty simple. The more apps that you have open at the same time, the more chances that you have to get deliveries offered to you. And of course, in theory, this means that you'll end up with more money at the end of the day. Because if you're having multiple apps offer you deliveries at the same time, you pick the best one, turn the others off, and so you're always working on the highest dollar delivery. Again, in theory, and I'll talk about this a little bit more. The other huge pro I see, and this is I think the biggest one that actually is the most real world advantage, is that if one app crashes or is experiencing technical difficulties, you have a backup or even multiple backups so that you don't have any downtime at all. You can always be earning money even if your app of choice has some kind of a crash or something that's keeping you from working on it. And of course, these all sound like awesome, great reasons to want to multi-app. And they are. I certainly wouldn't deny that. Now, that said, what are some of the cons of multi-apping? I know it sounds crazy, but there are a few. First off, when you're multi-apping, you're more prone to fall into analysis paralysis. Analysis paralysis is a procrastination behavior that means that you are thinking so much about the different choices that you have that it prevents you from actually making a choice and getting started. So the way it manifests in delivery apps is that you may have Uber and DoorDash open at the same time, and you may have what looks like a perfectly acceptable Uber order come across, but rather than accept it, you decline it thinking, well, maybe I'll get a little bit better one from DoorDash here in the next few minutes. Sometimes this pays off, especially when the orders that are coming through are trash. You can just decline, and know that you have another app that's gonna serve you orders as well. So the likelihood of getting a better order sooner is, of course, greater. But sometimes that bigger order never comes. It could be that both apps are slow at the same time, and you just turned down a perfectly acceptable order that, while it wasn't great, was gonna keep you busy and making money, and now you don't have any orders coming through. Another con, well, I don't really know if this is so much of a con as just the reality of the situation, is that no matter how many apps you have open at the same time, there's only one of you. That means that technically you can only be working on one order at any given time. Yes, I realize you may get double stacked orders, or you may have an order on both apps going at the same time, but you're only driving to one restaurant or to one customer at a given time. There's only one of you. You physically can't drive to multiple places at the same time. If you are running both apps concurrently and actually accepting orders on both at the same time, your customers on both apps are going to have a lesser experience. You run into the risk of getting orders that are going opposite directions. You could get orders from restaurants that are far away from each other. There are just a few little hiccups that can happen because you're just you. You're not two drivers at the same time. Another con is that multi-apping can actually become confusing if you are running both at the same time. Say you have customer A on Uber and you have customer B on GrubHub. You really have to make sure you're keeping track of which order is going to which customer, not accidentally dropping off the wrong order at the wrong door. I know this seems like common sense, but it can happen. So just be careful. Another reason that I don't like to multi-app very often is that it can potentially be dangerous. When you're flipping back and forth in your phone, trying to keep customers straight, trying to make decisions on whether to accept an order on one app when you already have an order on another app, this can take your attention away from the road, which can be potentially dangerous for you and other drivers out on the road as well. That said, I'm not against multi-apping. I do it from time to time, but it is very rare. As I mentioned earlier, there is another app that I run sometimes. It's called Favor. The reason that I don't do Favor more often is because Plain and simple, the vast majority of the time, I make more money with Uber Eats. The only time I will ever turn on favor is if Uber Eats is dead slow. And then usually if one app is slow, the other is gonna be slow as well. Most people order food at the same times of day, regardless of which app they use. So it's pretty rare that I find it worth it to multi-app. Now, that said, your market may be completely different. You may find it totally worth it to multi-app on a regular basis. If you do, more power to you. Just be careful. Here are just a few quick tips on getting the most out of multi-apping. First, set a dollars per hour goal that you want to meet and accept anything that meets those standards. And I say that because it's really easy to slip into the mindset of turning down orders that would otherwise be perfectly acceptable because you think that something better is going to come along. This is that analysis paralysis that I was talking about. If you fall victim to this too often, you actually will probably end up making less money than if you just stuck with one app to begin with. Also, if you're gonna multi-app, I recommend doing it only during slow times. If you're stuck working slow afternoon or morning hours, multi-apping is a great way to make sure that you stay busy and don't have much downtime in between customers. But during really busy lunch and dinner hours, I found that sticking to one app yields better results almost every time. That said, I also recommend designating a primary app, and then you can do the rest of the apps in the background. If it's busy or there's a promotion going on that's too good to ignore, stick to your primary app. When it starts slowing down, go ahead and turn on your backup app so that you can stay busy. Finally, my last recommendation is please pay attention to the road. There are a lot of us delivery drivers out there, and there are a lot more regular non-working drivers out on the road. And all of us deserve a safe place to drive. And no matter how careful you are, the reality is the more apps you're actively running at once, the more your attention is diverted from what's going on in front of you on the road. So just please take care and be safe. Guys, thank you so much for joining me again today. If you felt like this video was useful, go ahead and throw a like on it. It makes it easier for other people to find it. And if you want to see more great Uber Eats content like this on a regular basis, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. You guys have a great day and happy hustling.